Have you ever felt someone pull away so hard that you started to question your own worth? You are not alone. That silence you are hearing from them right now is not the end of the story. It is not proof that you were never loved. It is something else entirely, something most people never learn to decode. Before we break down the 7 texts that can soften the hardest walls an avoidant person has built around their heart, I want to give you a reward for staying until the end of this video. Not a gimmick, not a fake promise, a real psychological shift. By the time you finish, you will understand exactly why their distance has nothing to do with your value. And you will walk away with a single sentence that rewires how they see you forever, but only if you listen carefully. Let me ask you something personal. When they disappeared, what hurt more? The absence itself, or the story you started telling yourself about that absence? Most people get stuck in the second one. They say things like, "I wasn't enough. I pushed them away. If I had been quieter, calmer, more interesting, they would have stayed." Stop right there. That voice in your head is lying to you. Not because you are broken, but because you are trying to understand an avoidant person using a normal person's map. And that map will only get you lost. Here is the truth psychology has known for decades. An avoidant person does not leave because you are too much. They leave because intimacy feels like a trap, not a trap you set. A trap their own nervous system built when they were too young to even spell the word love. Let me explain. Every human being has an attachment style. It forms in childhood based on how your caregivers responded to your needs. A secure person learned that crying brings comfort. An anxious person learned that crying sometimes brings comfort and sometimes brings punishment. So they try harder. An avoidant person learned something different. They learned that crying brings nothing, or worse, it brings rejection. So they stopped crying, they stopped needing, they stopped showing they care. Do you see what happened? They did not become cold because they are evil. They became cold because being cold kept them alive as children. Now they are adults, and their brain still runs that same software. When someone gets too close, their body releases stress hormones just like yours does when you face physical danger. They are not choosing to run, they are reacting, and you cannot argue with a nervous system using logic. So when you send that long paragraph explaining how you feel, what happens inside them? Panic. Not because they do not care, but because caring has always been followed by pain. Their mind says, "Here it comes," the demand, the expectation. The moment I fail them and they leave just like everyone else left. So they leave first, not to hurt you, to survive. Does that make it right? No. Does that make it fair? Absolutely not. But understanding this changes everything. Because once you stop chasing a ghost and start seeing a wounded person who learned the wrong lessons about love, you stop taking their distance personally. And the moment you stop taking it personally, you become powerful. Now let's talk about the wall. The avoidance wall is not made of hate. It is made of fear. Fear of being controlled. Fear of being swallowed. Fear of losing themselves inside another person. They grew up believing that dependence equals danger, so they built a wall to keep dependence out. But here is the secret no one tells you. That wall has a door, and you do not break it down with a battering ram. You open it with a key they do not even know they are holding. What is that key? Safety. Not safety from the world. Safety from their own worst fear. The fear that love will cost them their freedom. Most people, when they feel someone pulling away, do the exact opposite of what works. They pull harder. They send more messages. They ask for reassurance. They say things like, "Why are you being this way? You never make time for me. I feel like you don't even care." To a secure person, those are cries for connection. To an avoidant, those are alarms. Every one of those messages screams one word in their brain: trap. And what does a trapped animal do? It fights or it flees. Since they don't want to hurt you, they flee. Then you chase. Then they flee harder. And round you go until both of you are exhausted and heartbroken. The way out is not more effort. It is less pressure. But not the kind of less pressure that feels like giving up. The kind that feels like freedom. Here is where psychology gets interesting. Avoidants do not stop loving you when they leave. That is the part that confuses most people. They still think about you. They still remember your laugh. They still miss the way you made them feel seen, but their brain has a faulty filter. It remembers the closeness as the problem, not the solution. So they tell themselves, "I'm better off alone. Relationships are too much work. I don't need anyone. But their body knows the truth. Their loneliness keeps them up at night. Their chest hurts when they see old photos. And somewhere deep down, they wonder why no one ever feels like home. They want home. They just don't know how to let it in without losing themselves. That is where your power lies, not in convincing them, not in proving your worth, but in becoming the one person who speaks to the part of them that no one else has ever spoken to. Most people try to reach an avoidant through logic. We are good together. I have never felt this way. We can make it work if you try. Logic fails, because their distance was never logical. It was emotional, and emotions do not respond to arguments. They respond to feeling understood. So how do you make an avoidant feel understood without chasing them? You stop trying to climb their wall, and you start standing at the door with a quiet confidence they are not used to seeing. You stop begging for their attention, and you start offering something they cannot find anywhere else. Peace. Here is the hard truth. The reason your texts have not worked so far is not because you said the wrong words, it is because you sent them from the wrong place. A place of fear, a place of need, a place of please don't leave me. That energy repels an avoidant like nothing else on earth. Not because they are cruel, but because they spent their entire childhood absorbing the emotional needs of caregivers who could not meet them. And they swore they would never go back to that prison. So when you send need, their body remembers, and they run. But when you send calm, something shifts. When you send understanding without demand, they pause. When you send a message that does not ask for anything in return, they stop running long enough to read it twice. That is the opening. That is the door. Now let me promise you something real. You are about to learn 7 texts. Each one is built on a psychological principle that bypasses their defense mechanisms and speaks directly to the hidden part of them that still wants connection. None of them are manipulative. None of them play games. They are honest, respectful, and grounded in how the avoidant mind actually works. But before you use a single one, you must do something first. You must let go of the outcome, not pretend to let go. Really let go. Because if you send these texts hoping for a specific reply, that hope will leak through every word. And they will feel it. The texts are not tools to control someone. They are mirrors that reflect your own emotional independence. When you send them from a place of genuine peace, they work. When you send them from a place of hidden desperation, they fail. So here is your reward for staying with me. The one psychological shift that changes everything. Stop asking, how do I make them come back? Start asking, what version of me would they be afraid to lose? Because an avoidant does not return to pressure. They return to presence. They return to the person who made them feel safe enough to lower their wall for just a second. And in that second, they remember something they forgot. Love does not have to hurt. That is the first section. Now let's get specific. You already understand why pressure fails. You know their wall is fear, not hate. And you have stopped taking their silence as a judgment of your worth. That shift alone puts you ahead of 90% of people in your situation. But understanding is not enough. You need action. You need words that land differently. Words that do not trigger the alarm. Words that make an avoidant exhale instead of clench their jaw. Here is the first text. I have been thinking about you. Not because I need anything, just because some things don't need a reason. Look at that sentence closely. What does it do? It gives attention without demand. It offers presence without expectation. It says, you crossed my mind, without adding, so now you owe me a reply. To an avoidant, this is rare air. Most people text them with hidden contracts. I texted you, so you text me back. I said I miss you, so you say it too. Avoidants feel those contracts like a weight on their chest, and they resent it. But this text has no contract. It is a gift. A genuine, no-strings-attached moment of human warmth. And here is the psychology behind it. Avoidants are starved for warmth that does not come with a bill. As children, every hug from a caregiver came with a condition. Be good, don't cry, make me proud. They learned that love is transactional. So when you offer love with zero transaction, their brain does not know how to reject it. It slips right past the wall. Now the second text. I am not mad at you for needing space. I actually respect that you know yourself well enough to take it. This one disarms their deepest shame. Avoidants feel guilty for needing space. They know it hurts you, but they cannot stop needing it. So they tell themselves, I am broken. I ruin everything. They would be better off without me. Your text does not fight their need for space. It validates it. It says, you are not broken, you are self-aware. And that validation kills the shame. When shame disappears, the wall softens. Not because you convinced them, because you saw them clearly for the first time. Most people say, why do you always push me away? That makes them feel attacked, so they push harder. You said, I respect you. That makes them feel understood, so they lean in, just a little. Third text. I used to think your silence meant you didn't care. Now I realize silence is just how you process. Take all the time you need. Do you see the pattern? Every effective text has two parts. First, you admit your own previous misunderstanding. That shows humility and growth. Second, you remove the deadline. You give them infinite time. Avoidants run from deadlines. Call me by tonight. We need to talk tomorrow. Those feel like traps, but take all the time you need feels like freedom, and freedom is the only thing they trust. But here is where most people mess this up. They say, take all the time you need, but inside they are counting the minutes. That tension leaks. The avoidant feels it, and the text backfires. So before you send this, you must actually mean it. You must be okay if they take a week, or a month, or never reply. The moment you are truly okay with any outcome, you become undeniably attractive to them, not because you are playing hard to get, because you are no longer playing at all. Fourth text. I have been working on my own life lately, and somewhere in that work, I realized I used to ask too much from you. That was not fair. I am sorry. This one is dangerous if you do not mean it, but if you mean it, it is magic. Why? Because avoidants rarely hear apologies from the people who chase them. They hear blame. They hear, you are the problem. So they retreat further. But an apology that takes responsibility for your own behavior, that is shocking to them. It shows emotional intelligence. It shows strength. And it shows that you are not trying to be right. You are trying to be connected. Psychologically, this works because avoidants have a hidden fear that they are impossible to love. Your apology says, you are not impossible. I just did not understand you before. That lifts a weight they did not even know they were carrying. Fifth text. No matter what happens between us, I am grateful for what we had. That does not change. Avoidants live in fear of being hated. They know they pull away. They know it hurts. And they expect you to eventually resent them. That resentment confirms their belief that closeness always ends badly. Your gratitude breaks that cycle. When you say, I am grateful, you are not asking for a future. You are honoring a past. That is safe. That is non-threatening. And it reminds them of the good parts they usually forget when they are in defense mode. Do not add, I hope we can have that again. Do not add, please give me another chance. Just leave it as pure gratitude. Let it stand alone. That single sentence will replay in their mind more times than you can imagine. Sixth text. I am not waiting for you, but I am not closing the door either. I am just living my life. This is the most confident text on the list. It says three things at once. First, you have self-respect. You are not putting your life on hold. Second, you are not bitter. The door is still open. Third, you are not needy. You are just existing peacefully. Avoidants respect this deeply, not because they want you to move on, but because they have spent their whole life afraid that loving someone means losing themselves. You just showed them that loving you does not require that loss. You have your own life. You are whole without them. That makes you safe to come back to. Do you see the difference between this and pretending? Pretending says, I don't care, while checking your phone every 3 minutes. Real confidence says, I care, but I will be fine either way. Avoidants have finely tuned radars for desperation. They cannot spot genuine peace, and genuine peace is the only thing that makes them curious enough to reopen the door. Seventh text, the most powerful one. Use this only when you have truly let go. I hope you find what you are looking for, and I hope one day you realize you already had it. This text is not a plea. It is not even an invitation. It is a blessing. You are wishing them well with no conditions, and you are planting a seed, not a seed of guilt, a seed of recognition. Here is the psychology. Avoidants often realize what they lost only after it is really gone. Not because they are foolish, because their defense mechanisms hide the truth from them. When you are still waiting, their brain says, they are still there. I can leave longer. But when you send a message that feels like a gentle goodbye, their brain says, wait, this is different. This feels final. And finality wakes something up. Not always. Not immediately. But often. Now here is the most important thing you will hear. These 7 texts are not a sequence. You do not send them one after another. You pick one. You send it. Then you go back to your life. You do not follow up. You do not ask if they got it. You do not look for signs. You send it like a message in a bottle. You watch it float away. And you keep living, because the person you are becoming through this process is more important than the person you are trying to reach. The strength you build by walking away from desperation will serve you forever. Whether they come back or not, you win. You win because you stopped begging. You win because you learned the language of the avoidant mind without losing your own heart. You win because you chose peace over panic. And if they come back to someone new, someone calm, someone whose text made them feel safe for the first time. Not because you tricked them, because you healed yourself first. That is the only real text worth sending. Not to their phone, to your own soul. Now close this video. Put your phone down and ask yourself one question. If they never come back, who will you become anyway? That answer is your real comeback story.